Excellent. Genesis 50 tonight. There we are. We've been in this dispensation of what we call promise, looking at the patriarchs for some time. We made it through the book of Genesis. And let's see, it's taken us roughly a year to go through it. So, I don't remember exactly when I started it, but I assume we started it on Thursdays in September, so last year. But anyway, we are going to close out the dispensation, and then we'll pick up the dispensation of the law. I'm not going to just go through the whole book of Exodus. I'm going to highlight the law. I'm going to highlight the preparation of the people for the Exodus and the giving of the law. I'm going to highlight briefly it's also the time period of the judges, time period of the kings. So we'll do an overview more. We will spend some time in the early chapters of Exodus, no question. But I'm not going to do all 40 chapters of Exodus. But we'll get to that next time. But tonight we're in Genesis 50, and last time we looked at the death of Jacob and how he prophesied over his sons and basically the different tribes and told them what they could expect. Some good, some bad, some kind of so-so in the middle. Now, in the end of chapter 49, the Bible says that he yielded up the ghost, was gathered to his people, and now they're going to mourn for him. In chapter number 50, it says, "And Joseph fell upon his father's face, and wept upon him and kissed him." Now, this would be Joseph grieving for his father. This is something that we all, to some degree or another, will have to do. This is something we don't look forward to doing, and this is something that many of you have done already. My wife and I were discussing some things today along those lines, I'll say, elderly parents, the whole thing. And, it's just like a bummer thinking about it, It's just like it takes the wind out of your sails, but it is part of the thing we call life, And so when Joseph grieves for his father, many of you can identify with that. And you could see that grief, it's a stink bomb of life, you know what I mean? So, can you imagine, though, what it would be like without the eternal perspective? That makes me really feel bad for people that don't know Christ. And they go through this thing and they lose loved ones. Man, that's rough. It's just good to know Christ. It's good to know Christ, and it's good to know the simplicity of salvation. Because even if you don't know about their salvation, and even if you think maybe you planted a seed at one time, you think about the thief on the cross. You think about that last moment of somebody calling out to the Lord, and it gives us the hope. So thank God for Christ. Thank God for the Lord Jesus and salvation. But you get the feel for the grief here, and I mean, if you truly love somebody, you're going to truly grieve for them. If you don't love somebody or you don't know somebody, then you say, "Shucks, that's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that," but you don't grieve for them. I mean, it just sometimes I can think of a neighbor of ours that when we first moved to the neighborhood, an elderly gentleman passed away. And because he was so close with the family, a large family, the grief that went on. And I remember them telling us they went next door to a neighbor who was kind of a, recluse type guy. And they said, "Oh, Joe died." And he was like, just kind of closed the door. Like, He didn't care because he just didn't care, you know. And then the neighbor across the street said, that's life. That was his response. And I remember when that miserable guy died, there wasn't anybody there for him. You know what I mean? It's interesting. You watch people's different responses and lack of compassion, but then you're going to end up there, you know. So all this makes you think of, Genesis ends with a man in a coffin. This promising book that in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth, we are 2,300 years later, and it ends with a man in a coffin. How far it has come. And it just shows you what mankind has done to God's creation, where he meant for man to live forever. And how man messed it up. So, anyways, as a result, we all are going to some degree or another, go through this. And it says in verse 2, and Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Israel. Boy, you're talking about that. That is 3,700 years ago, and they're embalming somebody. You know, it's been said, I've read, that the Egyptians kind of invented it, you know, but they had these lengthy funerals, if you will. It says in verse 3, and 40 days were fulfilled for him. For so are fulfilled the days of those which are embalmed, and the Egyptians mourned for him 70 days, another 30 days. So you got 70 days of mourning. Now, I got to thinking about this. That's a long time. Another bummer is when somebody dies, especially unexpectedly, you're expecting people to make decisions. It's like, okay, boom, funeral, viewing, funeral, burial, and they're like in a fog. And I suppose even when you do expect it, it's still. So I'm not saying we ought to have 30, 40, 70 days, but I'm saying I feel bad for people. I had a guy call me. I hadn't heard from this guy in about 8 months. Lost guy. I've tried to minister to him for several years, he and his family. And once in a while, when he hits the rock bottom, he reaches out to me. Hey, Pastor, can you talk? He texts me, can you talk? It's like 9 o'clock at night. I said, can we talk in the morning? I need to talk. Okay. You know what? 8 months ago, his mother died. And he can't get past it. And he says, I was in such a fog. My father wanted me to reach out to me, and I rejected him. My siblings did this, and I did wrong. He goes, and I'm looking back going, oh, I wish I could have that time back. But you know, sometimes you just can't think clearly in the moment. I feel bad for him because he has those regrets, but I encourage him at the same time to make those relationships right, restore those things, encourage him, you know, and you know, try to give him some hope moving forward. But I thought, man, 8 months later, and the man is beating himself up about his mother's death and funeral. I think, you know, there might have been some wisdom in having a little bit of a grieving process before making all the decisions. I don't know. It's not that we're going to do it in our culture. It makes me think about that stuff, you know. So you'll have opportunity to minister to someone that you're helping through this, and you need to help them through this. They're not thinking clearly. Okay? We'll all be there. We've all been there on one side or the other. So just something to keep in mind with that. So they go 40, 70 days, verse 4, and when the days of his mourning were past, Joseph spake unto the house of Pharaoh, saying, if now I have found grace in your eyes, speak, I pray you, in the ears of Pharaoh, saying, my father made me swear, saying, lo, I die in my grave which I have digged for me in the land of Canaan, there shalt thou bury me. Now therefore let me go up, I pray thee, and bury my father, and I will come again. So Joseph asking Pharaoh for permission to go back into the land of Israel and bury his father. And Pharaoh said, go up and bury thy father according as he made thee swear. Now a good thing here with Joseph is he's a man of his word. Okay? He's made a promise to his father and he's fulfilling it. Okay? Sometimes people will make promises to people, and when they die, they think, "Oh, I don't have to fulfill that promise anymore." Okay, that might not be a good character trait to have, but this was. It says in verse 7, Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Egypt, and all the house of Joseph and his brethren and his father's house, only their little ones and their flocks and their herds they left in the land of Goshen. And there went up with him both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond Jordan, and there they mourned with a great and very sore lamentation, and made a mourning for his father 7 days. And again, another 7 days on top of this. Okay, he was a great man. He was a great patriarch, and he mourned. When I was about 5 years old, I would say, I remember my father. We're driving back from Newfane, New York. My grandmother had died. I barely, vaguely even remember her. And my father driving home drenched in tears and having to pull over, and then my mother finishing the drive. I remember that distinctly. He was close with his mother. Fast forward a few years, I was probably 14 years old. I went with him to Newfane to visit my grandfather, his father, who was on his deathbed. And when we walked in the door, my grandfather wept aloud when he saw my father. And he said, come sit on the bed. And my dad stood there and goes, no. And I realized he wasn't close with his father. And I'm not going to put fault on that. It was a bad situation. You know what I mean? And I thought, what a difference. The way he mourned for his mother and then mourned and grieved for his father. I thought, what a difference that is. Just you take note of that stuff, And it's like, wow, And again, I'm not judging that. I don't know. It was a bad scenario from his childhood and all that, but I remember that. And I thought, man, I hope if the day comes, man, and I'm there and I say to my son or my daughters, come sit, that they'll come sit. I mean, that would be a reflection on me. If they say, no, I'm not coming over there. It makes you think about relationships, doesn't it? I'm not trying to depress you tonight. This stuff makes you think about relationships, okay? They had a very sore lamentation for a week long now from here. They're grieving for this man. Obviously, he was beloved of people. And your funeral will be your final statement. Your final mark will be your funeral. Nobody's going to care. Few are going to care. They're going to be indifferent, or a lot of people are going to be there and care. And again, it's going to depend on if you live to be 100, not a lot of your friends are showing up. You know what I mean? I get that. But at the same time, it'll be an impression, a mark that you make. So, anyway. Verse 11, and when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning in the floor of Atad, they said, this is a grievous mourning to the Egyptians. Wherefore the name of it was called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond Jordan, which meant great mourning kind of a thing. And his sons did unto him according as he commanded them. For his sons carried him into the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which we've seen several times now, which Abraham bought with the field for a possession of the burying place of Ephron the Hittite before Mamre. And Joseph returned into Egypt, he and his brethren, and all that went up with him to bury his father after he had buried his father. So Joseph returns back into Egypt, and now he's left there in the land of Goshen with his brethren, but no patriarch there anymore, no Jacob anymore. And when Joseph's brethren saw that their father was dead, they said, Joseph will peradventure hate us and it will certainly requite us all the evil which we did unto him. Now, here we are. Years have gone by. And the years have gone by where they were all together in the land of Goshen, where he revealed himself to his brethren and set them up and took care of them and let them stay there and patched things up. And these guys say, Dad is gone. He might do us evil. I suppose that crossed their mind. But here's the thing. You know what this tells me? This tells me that they were feeling still so guilty of what they did to this boy when they put him in the pit and sold him out. They haven't gotten past it. Joseph's gotten past it. And we're going to see that. He continues to say that. In fact, he's bummed out that they feel this way. But these guys, and I think it speaks to their character. And they say, he's going to hate us. Had they seen any hatred from him? I don't think so. He's going to do evil. Have they seen evil from Joseph? I don't think. Okay? But that's how they feel toward this. And they sent a messenger unto Joseph, saying, Thy father did command before he died, saying. Now, what they're about to say, there's no record of it. They might have made this up. Knowing those guys, they probably did. Okay? So, before Dad died, Joseph, this is what he says. Verse 17, So shall you say unto Joseph, Forgive, I pray thee now, the trespasses of thy brethren and their sin, for they did unto thee evil, and now we pray thee, forgive the trespass of the servants of the God of thy father. And Joseph wept when they spake unto him. You know why he wept? He's like, Are you kidding me? That's what you think of me? They come to him via a messenger, not even face to face. Hey, your brother wants you to know that this is what your father said, and that forgive him, forgive him, forgive him. And he hears it and he cries. He's got to be like, after everything that I've done for you, you still think I'm going to exact vengeance on you. And he's weeping. No doubt bothered by their lack of faith in him. And his brethren also went and fell down before his face, and they said, Behold, we be thy servants. They come in, the messenger comes and tells them this, and then they come in and they get down on their knees and fall down before him and say, We're your servants. Basically they're probably saying, Don't kill us, don't kill us. And Joseph said unto them, Fear not, for am I in the place of God? And that's such a powerful statement right there. Joseph had forgiven them already. But here's the statement is, they're saying, please, we know we deserve punishment. We deserve death. We deserve evil. We deserve you to be mad. But he says, I'm not God. Now that's for us, folks. And we've said this a million times, but people have done you bad. They've done you wrong. They've done you evil. They've slandered you. Maybe they've gotten you fired. Maybe they stole money from you. They told lies about you. And you have every right to be angry with them. And it becomes in your opportune time to get them back. Maybe it's, hey, I could tell the boss this, and I could get them fired. Maybe it's, I've got an opportunity to tell everybody else something about them that came up. Yet, Joseph's response is said, For am I in the place of God? Do you realize that when you and I, on that receiving end of an injustice, forgive and move on and don't exact vengeance and don't try to plot, do you realize that God sees that? And that people tend to naturally reap what they have sown? And that probably what's going to happen is somebody's going to get what's coming to them along the way. I think that's where we need to be as Christians. I'm not in the place of God. I'd love to smack you one, but I'm not in the place of God, you know. I'd like to make your life more miserable than it is already, but I'm not in the place of God. That's a great attitude to have. Hard sometimes, but it's a great attitude to have. And then he says this. And we've said this a lot, and you've read it and heard it preached and the whole thing, but he says, "But as for you, you thought evil against me. But God meant it unto good, to bring to pass, as it is this day, to save much people alive." Man, he sees the bigger picture, doesn't he? What is hard for us to see right now in life is any more than a few feet in front of us. Yet to step back and try to see the bigger picture, maybe people can be impacted for Christ for something. And I don't know. I don't know what situation you're in or been in or or anything like that. No, we certainly haven't gone through what Joseph did. But for us to think, somebody intended evil against me, I think I'll stand back and just say, Lord, make this good. Bring some good out of it. And sometimes, man, that might take a lifetime. That might take a lifetime, and it may never happen. But I think it's better to operate that way, to say, maybe God is going to bring some good out of this. Maybe. I can at least trust that He can. Lord, make some good out of this. Maybe somebody could be saved from this. I mean, listen, I'm not in their shoes, but this Rochester police officer that was recently shot and killed, and is a Christian family. You could say, this is evil, Lord. Make some good out of it. Save much people alive. See people come to Christ through this. And something like that, that could take years, but it could happen still. You see, I'm sure they saw some fruit already, but they could continue to see fruit from that the rest of their lives. Tough to see when you're in the middle of it. And Joseph, though, he's no longer in the middle of it. Years have passed. Years have passed. He sees now what God has done. We had the famine, we had the plenty, then we had the famine, then we had the whole nation move here, and now they're being preserved alive, and the whole thing. So he says, hey guys, I'm over this. Sorry you're not, but I'm over this. And you thought it evil, God meant it unto good. God meant it unto good. What's Romans 8:28 say? Somebody help me because I'm drawing a complete blank on it. Thank you. All things work for them that, and to them that are called according to His purpose. So all things work together for good, right? To them that, here's the key, love God, and to them that, this is part of it that we missed, by the way, to them that are called according to His purpose. Hey, Lord, make this, I don't want to live for you, but make this work good for me. That's not the verse. them that love God, them that are called according to his purpose. And if you can have your heart in tune with God, and you love him, and you're serving him, and you can say, Lord, work this thing for good. I don't know how. Work it for good. The last couple years of ministry were miserable for me at my former job, my former ministry. They were miserable for me. I didn't understand why. I didn't like it. I didn't like some people. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. And I got to a place where I said, okay, I give up. Lord, make some good out of this. I think he did. I had no idea what. I had to get to a place where I stopped being mad at people. I had to get to a place where I stopped talking about the people all the time. I had to get to a place where I had to submit. And I had to get to a place where I saw the hand of God moving. And it was like, I'm praying, Lord, okay, Lord, I'm mad. I don't like this. Open and close doors, Lord. Open and close doors. Open and close doors. And I'm mad, and I'm mad, and I'm mad. And one day it just hit me over the head and said, did you want open and closed doors? Yep. They're closed. Oh. They're closed. Complete peace after that. Complete peace. I was like, whatever happens, happens now. I had no idea what would happen. But you got to get to a place where, to them that love God, to them that are called according to his people, and to them that don't wish evil on anybody else, right? Or get mad at people or the whole thing. Just, you know what? Lord, you know what's going on. You move it on. You move me along. Whatever you need to do, that's what he's done. I like what he's done. You thought it evil against me, God meant it unto good. Then he says in 21, now therefore fear ye not, I will nourish you and your little ones. And he comforted them and spake kindly unto them. I mean, Joseph goes above and beyond the call of duty here. He says, fellas, relax. Fear not. You could see how he's a type of Christ here. Fear not. It's okay. God meant it for good. It's all good. And by the way, not only that, but I'm going to nourish you and I'm going to nourish your little ones. And I'm going to speak kindly unto you and unto them. That's Christ. Listen, think about it. We crucified Christ. And he says, have faith. I'm going to nourish you. I'm going to nourish your little one. I'm going to take care of you. Isn't that something? Wow. Man, that's the love of God. That can only be the love of God. What a character Joseph had. This is Christ-like. And Joseph dwelt in Egypt, he and his father's house, and Joseph lived 110 years, a good long life. And Joseph saw Ephraim's children of the third generation. The children also of Machir, the son of Manasseh, were brought up upon Joseph's knees. So he saw generations now, 3 generations. And that was a blessing to him. That was an honor to an old man. And Joseph said unto his brethren, I die, and God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land unto the land which he sware to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And that promise goes way back to the Abrahamic covenant, when he told Abraham that this was going to happen. And he says here, God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land. The land of Egypt, God is going to bring his people out of. Now think about it. Egypt, we say, is a type of the world, right, in the Bible. Now think about this. Abraham went down to Egypt and God brought him out. Isaac went down to Egypt and God brought him out. Jacob went down to Egypt and God had him buried in his own land. Joseph is going to die there, and several hundred years later, his bones would be carried in the land of Canaan, and he would be buried there as well. Bring him out. A whole generation of people were down there, and God said, when the timing's right, I want you all out. He never left his people in Egypt. Jesus, what happened when he was a baby, remember? They went down to hide him into Egypt, and when the Herod was dead, he said, bring him out. And that fulfilled Hosea chapter 11, verse 1. It's mentioned in Matthew 2:15, out of Egypt have I called my son. All right, what does that mean for us? We're in Egypt. We're in the world. We ain't staying here. Isn't that great? He promises us to bring us out. So he's either going to do that when we die, we go to heaven, we're out. He's going to even take our bones out at the rapture, or he's going to rapture us all whole. Transform us on the way up. But he's going to get us out of Egypt. Isn't that great? He doesn't want us here. We're here for a little while. Don't get too entrenched in Egypt. He doesn't want you to stay here. Anything from Egypt as a source is not good. Not good. And, Israel is a nation. After the death of Joseph, and we'll get into that in the next dispensation and all that, they were in hard bondage. They must have thought, we're never getting out of here. Slaves the rest of our lives. Some of them died in slavery. A lot of them did. But then finally God says, I'm getting you out. Okay? And even though we are a very wealthy, spoiled people in America as Christians, some people still are like, oh Lord, this is horrible, get us out. Imagine being a Christian somewhere else, like in Russia or in Syria or, in Afghanistan or Iraq. You know what? God says, you're coming out. I'm bringing you out. There'll be a time when I'm not going to leave you there. You're coming out. And that's what happens. So, I say all that to say, God promises to bring his children out because they don't belong in Egypt. And we are in the world, but not of the world. We're not Egyptians. We're Christians. So we're here, but we're going out. We're here for a purpose, for a reason. It'll be fulfilled, hopefully, in your life. And then your time is up in Egypt. You're passing through. You might live 70, 80, 90, 100 years. Blip on the radar screen. Not your home. He's calling you out. You live eternity out of Egypt. Ouch. Nothing good comes out of Egypt. And he called Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Jesus out. And you and I, we're going out. Okay, we're going out. So he says, I die, God will visit you. He's going to give you the land of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. In verse 25, and Joseph took an oath of the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from hence. Don't even leave my bones here, he says. Now this is Joseph, who's number 2 in command. He's really become, quote, an Egyptian. He's like, don't leave my bones here. He was there. You know what he was there for? Whatever was necessary. This was the job he had to do. I'll be number 2. I'll save alive a group of people. We'll get, we'll get the children of Israel all set up so they can come out one day. God's going to visit them one day. I've done my job. I've done what I had to do, what I've been called to do. Don't leave my bones here. So he wasn't completely fond of Egypt, was he? Hey, folks, you're here for a purpose, and that purpose is the gospel. That purpose is a spiritual purpose. The purpose is not your career, although that's okay. The purpose is not a big retirement. That's okay. The purpose is not to leave a mark as, a good person, or whatever career or whatever you've done in the neighborhood, or that. That's not the purpose. The purpose is the kingdom of God. I want to be remembered for being a Christian in Egypt. Don't leave my bones here. You know what? That's why even if I die before the rapture, those bones come out. The graves are opened. He doesn't leave our bones here. That's what we think of Egypt. We're supposed to think of Egypt. And in Exodus chapter 13, for the Exodus, they took Joseph out. His bones came out. And if the bones of any religious leader are found, it doesn't change their teachings one bit. But if the bones of Jesus Christ were ever found, it changes everything. And his bones were not left in the world. You can't go to his grave. Oh, this is the tomb we think. It doesn't matter. He's not there. He got out. Don't leave my bones in Egypt. That's what essentially he was saying. I'm not staying here. And if you know what? Ours won't be either. If they are, we are of all men, 1 Corinthians 15 says, most what? Miserable. It all hinges. Our faith hinges on don't leave my bones in Egypt. Get my bones out. That means there's a resurrection. So Joseph says, swear to me. Get me out of here. Take my bones away. He knew the bigger picture, the bigger perspective. And so Joseph died. Now, the Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Genesis 50:26, and Joseph died being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. That's the end of Genesis. Almost depressing. I also find, this is just a little bit of a side note, of respecting and reverencing the dead. Joseph died, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. Even though he's dead, and we say, well, he's not there. I understand. Even so, the Spirit of God says that they did something to him. They embalmed him. He's not there. But his body is part of him, right? Treated with somewhat of respect, I guess is what I'm saying. They put him in a coffin. He would be buried there temporarily, then buried into the land of Canaan. And if you follow the patriarchs through and the different people in scriptures that are buried, you see what a respectful burial is. And that God respects a respectful burial. Okay? Not a disrespectful burial. Just do what the scriptures tell you to do. And So they put him in a coffin in Egypt. He dies there. And the book that begins with a living God ends with a dead man. What started in a garden ends in a coffin. This would be everyone's future without Jesus Christ. Only Jesus Christ can bring someone out of Egypt after they're dead, right? So, I mean, we've seen a lot of different people and a lot of different scenarios in the book of Genesis. Back to the garden, Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel and Enoch and Noah and Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. All of these different traits that they had, all the different choices they had, all of the different problems that they had, and yet, through it all, it would always be the Lord that would sustain them. It would always be the Lord that was the difference maker in their life. And nothing changes today, does it? It's still the Lord. He's still the difference maker. So we wrap up tonight the dispensation of promise. Now, way back last year, we gave everybody one of these or made them available. These are still available back in the lobby. And this is just basically a map of what we would call dispensations. So just to review, innocence, conscience, human government, and promise. We've looked at 4 dispensations so far. In the dispensation of innocence, they had a responsibility. In every dispensation, there's a responsibility, a failure, and a judgment. All right? Just to bring it down to real basic. And in the garden, innocence, don't eat of the fruit. They ate, and there was death. Responsibility, failure, judgment. In conscience, they said, remember Cain and Abel, and now they were working with, they ate of the tree of knowledge, conscience of good and evil. And Cain killed Abel, and they were supposed to do well and all that, and they didn't. And wickedness, and then God flooded the earth. That was the judgment. Then God starts over with Noah. Hey, scatter, multiply, get out there. They didn't scatter. They end up at Babel, and the judgment was confusion of languages. Then we went from there into the call of Abraham, and the promise was this: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, all you guys, this is the promise of the covenant, the Abrahamic covenant, the Palestinian covenant. This is your land. Dwell in your land. And he let them go to Egypt for the famine, but part of the judgment of being there led to severe bondage. And this is how this dispensation ends. Dwell in the land, the promised land. They decided to dwell and stay in Egypt. And now we're going to see they go into severe bondage in Exodus. Why did God put them in bondage? So he could prepare them to go back to where? The promised land. Okay? And so the next dispensation or time period we look at will be of the law. All right? And he's going to call his people out of Egypt. He's going to bring them into a promised land, and he's going to give them a constitution to govern by called the law. Okay? And then we'll see all of their misery and failures with that, and also the grace and mercy of God. And then from there it will be there for a while in the dispensational law. We'll look at the different, it's not going to be boring, I promise you. Civil, ceremonial, and moral law. There's 3 divisions in the law. Okay, we'll look at all of those and go from there. All right, so that's it. Wraps up this dispensation of what we call promise of the patriarchs. And the next time we get together, we will look at the preparation for the people for the Exodus and cover all that for a little bit. All right, I'll stop there, and I will see if you have any